It was 2 a.m., and I was sitting alone in a hospital pumping room. The air smelled like antiseptic and stale coffee. And the only sound was the mechanical hum of the machine. My name is Lauren, and I'm 34. My son, Leo, was one floor below me, in the NICU, fighting for his life. He'd arrived at just 27 weeks. A tiny 2-pound, 1-ounce little bird. I was exhausted, terrified, and I needed my family. My hands were shaking when I texted our image-obsessed Boston family group chat. Leo is having a hard night. Please, just pray for him. Minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was from my Aunt Rebecca, our family's matriarch. It wasn't a text. It was a photo of her, smiling in a ball gown on a stage, perfectly posed. The caption read, "So proud to represent our family at the Children's Hospital Foundation Gala #GivingBack. Have you ever had your deepest crisis ignored? Or worse, used as a photo op by the people who were supposed to care the most? Let me know your story in the comments." That picture, it wasn't just a disconnected take reply. It was a message. It was a symptom of my entire life with them. See, in my family, we weren't just a family. We were an institution. An old money Boston name. Obsessed with pedigree, philanthropy, and above all, the image. Our lives were run from the immaculate, mahogany-paneled office of the Family Foundation, and its unofficial CEO was my Aunt Rebecca. Rebecca, my mother's older sister, had taken charge after my mom passed. She wasn't warm, she was efficient. She managed the family's reputation like a hawk, and anything that didn't fit the narrative of perfect, charitable, and strong was, well, it was a problem to be managed. My husband, Ryan, an architect, was a solid match. He was successful. He looked good in a suit. He was approved. But my career, that was a quiet embarrassment. I'm a grant writer. I work for messy nonprofits. The ones dealing with addiction, homelessness, domestic abuse. The kind of problems Rebecca's foundation preferred to solve from a distance, with a large, publicized check. Not by getting your hands dirty. Lauren is the sensitive one, Rebecca would say at family dinners, which was code for unstable and a bit of a disappointment. My greatest failure, in their eyes, was my struggle to provide the next heir. Ryan and I had tried for years. We'd suffered through 2 devastating miscarriages. Each time, the family's response was quiet, clinical. They were unfortunate events, private matters to be hidden away. As if my grief was a social inconvenience. When I announced I was pregnant with Leo, Rebecca's response was a thin smile. Well, let's just hope you can be calm this time, dear, for the baby's sake. That's why the silence after Leo's birth was so deafening. The emergency C-section. The terror of him being born at 27 weeks. This was my ultimate failure. It was messy. It was dramatic. It was everything our family was not supposed to be. And that picture from Rebecca wasn't just an oversight. It was a statement. I am at a gala, projecting our family's strength. You are in a hospital, projecting weakness. Get yourself under control. I knew, in that moment, I was completely and utterly on my own. Those first few weeks turned into 5 agonizing weeks of total isolation. My world shrank to the size of Leo's incubator. The NICU is a foreign planet. It has its own language, its own gravity. You learn to speak in grams and milliliters. You learn to read the heart monitor, to know which alarms mean he's just forgetting to breathe and which ones mean run. Leo was so small, just 2 pounds and 1 ounce. His skin was like paper. I would sit by his incubator for 12 hours a day, reading him books I was supposed to be reading in his nursery at home. And the silence from my family was deafening. I would send updates to the group chat. Leo gained 20 grams today. He's off the ventilator and on CPAP. My father, Richard, would send back a single thumbs up emoji. My stepmother, Brenda, nothing. Ryan was my rock. But he had to go back to work to keep our insurance. He'd come in the evenings, exhausted, and we'd sit by Leo's incubator holding hands. Two ghosts in a machine. The only real support I had was from strangers. In the pumping room, I met other mothers living the same nightmare. We were a broken, exhausted little sorority. We formed our own text group. We celebrated when one baby finally took a bottle. We cried when another had a setback. These women, these strangers, they became my real family. One afternoon, I was scrolling social media during a rare break, and I saw it. A picture posted by a cousin. My father, my stepmother, Aunt Rebecca, all of them, laughing, clinking glasses at a Sunday polo match. The caption read, "Wonderful family day." It felt like a punch to the stomach. Their lives were just continuing. Polo matches, dinners, concerts. It was like I had never existed. Like my son, fighting for his life in a plastic box. He was just a piece of unpleasantness they had successfully edited out of their perfect Boston lives. I stopped sending updates to the group chat. I just stopped. The question that was eating me alive wasn't will my son survive? It was why. Why do they hate me so much? I couldn't understand how people could be that cruel. I had no idea. The cruelty had only just begun. It was the end of the 5th week. Leo was stable. But stable in the NICU just means the crisis isn't happening right now. I was in the hospital cafeteria, stirring a cup of terrible coffee, my eyes burning with exhaustion. The place was my new home, filled with the same tired-looking residents and the smell of reheated pasta. I'd settled into this numb, painful rhythm. Wake up. Pump. Drive to the hospital. Sit by the incubator. Pump. Talk to doctors. Pump. Go home. Sleep for 3 hours. Repeat. Ryan and I were ships passing in the night. My family. They were just gone. I pulled out my phone to text Ryan an update. And it just exploded. The screen lit up like a Christmas tree. 73 missed calls. Dozens of texts. All from my brother. Ethan. My heart didn't just race. It slammed against my ribs. 73 calls. That's not checking in. That's... Something has happened. My fingers were shaking so hard I could barely unlock the phone. I opened his last text. Sent just seconds before. All caps. Lauren. Answer. It's Aunt Sharon. She's at Mass General. It's bad. Aunt Sharon. My mother's other sister. The sidelined aunt. The one Rebecca always pushed to the side. The world went sideways. I ran out of the cafeteria. My half-eaten sandwich forgotten. And called him. He picked up on the first ring. Lauren, where have you been? I've been calling for hours. His voice was tight. Frantic. He's a journalist. He's never frantic. I'm here. Ethan. I'm at the hospital. My phone was on silent. What's wrong? What happened to Aunt Sharon? There was a heavy pause. The sound of a hospital PA system in the background of his call. She had a massive stroke this morning. He said, his voice cracking. It's bad. Lauren, they don't know if she's going to make it. I leaned against the wall, the cold tile pressing into my back. Oh my God. Is anyone with her? Everyone is here. Ethan said. That's why I'm calling. Everyone's at Mass General. Dad. Brenda. Rebecca. Everyone. And? Look. Dad is asking why you aren't here. He's really hurt. You haven't come. I couldn't process the words. It felt like he was speaking a different language. A bitter, cold laugh just escaped my throat. It sounded like a bark. He's hurt. He's hurt that I'm not there. Lauren. What? Yeah, your aunt is. Ethan. I cut him off. My voice dangerously quiet. Where has he been? Where has any of them been? No one has been here. For 5 weeks. I have a son in the NICU. And not one person has come. Not Dad. Not Brenda. Not Rebecca. No one. Not a call. Not a visit. Nothing. The silence on the other end of the line was absolute. I could just hear him breathing. Processing what he finally said. His voice completely changed. The panic was gone, replaced by a cold, sharp confusion. What are you talking about? That? That can't be right. It is. Ethan. I've been alone. But. Lauren. Aunt Rebecca told us she's been coordinating meals for you. She said she's been visiting you. Sitting with Leo so you could rest. She said. She said you were completely overwhelmed and told everyone you wanted 0 visitors. She said she was handling everything. Ethan came to the NICU the next day. He's a journalist. So he's trained to be skeptical. To dig. But when he stood over Leo's incubator, all of that melted away. I watched him scrub his arms raw for 3 full minutes. Just like the nurses tell you to. He looked terrified, to even breathe near his nephew. Oh. Lauren. He whispered. Just looking at this tiny 2-pound fighter. He's perfect. I can't believe. He couldn't finish the sentence. He just reached one finger through the porthole of the incubator and gently touched Leo's foot. After a few minutes, I led him to the gray, windowless family room. I talked to Dad, he said, his voice flat and hard. The journalist was back. I went to their house last night after leaving Mass General. I asked him point blank. I just waited. It's so much worse than we thought. Lauren. This wasn't just, Lauren needs privacy. She went scorched earth. I didn't understand. What did she do? Ethan. He ran his hands through his hair. She told Dad that you were suffering from severe postpartum psychosis. She told him the hospital's doctors were worried about you. That they had advised a total visitor ban for your own mental stability. She told him you were unstable, a danger to yourself, and maybe even to Leo. The air left my lungs. It was a physical blow. She said what? She used your depression after the miscarriages as proof. Ethan continued, his voice thick with disgust. She told Dad you were fragile and not in your right mind. She convinced him that by staying away, he was protecting you. He was following doctor's orders. I saw it all. In that horrible, clarifying instant. The thumbs up emojis. The silence. It wasn't just neglect. It was a lie. A clinical, malicious, calculated lie. She had painted me as a crazy, hysterical new mother to contain the family embarrassment, to keep the perfect family image intact. And in that moment, I finally understood why. It's a classic psychological control tactic. It's called being a narcissistic gatekeeper. Rebecca had built her entire identity around being the family's center of gravity. She created a hub-and-spoke system where all information had to go through her. By controlling the communication, she controlled the family. She didn't just isolate me, she isolated everyone from me. It wasn't enough for me to be the sensitive one. She had to paint me as the unstable one. Because that reinforced her own position as the stable, capable matriarch. It wasn't just jealousy. It was a cold, systematic move to maintain power. She was protecting the foundation. The family name. My suffering wasn't a tragedy to her. It was a liability. She's been gaslighting our entire family for years, Ethan said, as if reading my mind. I never saw it until now. I looked at my brother, and the fog of grief and confusion I'd been in for 5 weeks finally cleared. It was replaced by something cold and hard and sharp. Set up a call. Ethan. I said. What? Set up a video call. With all of them. I want them to see me. I want them to see my son. And I want to see her face when I ask her. Ethan set up the call for that evening. He used his laptop. Setting it up, in the small, beige family room, just outside the NICU doors. My hands were steady. The woman who had cried herself to sleep for 5 weeks was gone. In her place was someone I didn't even recognize. Someone who felt cold, clinical. Ethan hit the call button. A second later, their faces flickered onto the screen. They were all there, crowded into Aunt Sharon's hospital room at Mass General. My father, Richard, his face looking 10 years older. My stepmother, Brenda, wringing her hands. And in the back, her arms crossed, was Aunt Rebecca. Her expression carefully neutral, like a CEO observing a hostile negotiation. Lauren, my father began, his voice thick and trembling. Lauren, Ethan told us. We had no idea. First, I said, and my voice was so cold, it startled, even me. Look at him. I picked up the laptop and walked the few feet to the large viewing window of the NICU. I angled the camera at the tiny incubator in the corner, at the blue billy lights, at the nest of wires. This is your grandson. Dad, this is Leo. He is 5 weeks old. He weighs 2 pounds and 1 ounce. And for 5 weeks, he has fought for his life. Alone. And you believed a lie. You believed I was crazy. Because it was easier than picking up the phone and calling me yourself. My father's face just crumpled. He put his head in his hands. Brenda was openly sobbing. But then, Rebecca's voice cut through. Sharp. Impatient. And angry. Lauren, you are being hysterical. She snapped. This is exactly the kind of drama we were trying to avoid. You were unstable. You are unstable. We were respecting the doctor's wishes. The doctor's wishes, I said, turning the camera back to my own face. Or your wishes. Rebecca, you never spoke to a doctor. You never came here. You never made a single call. I was protecting this family, she shot back. Her mask of composure, finally cracking. Protecting your father from your emotional breakdowns. Someone had to manage the situation. Manage? I almost laughed. Is that what you were doing at the Children's Hospital Gala? Was that managing the situation? Tell me. How did that picture feel? Rebecca, when you were on that stage, accepting applause for your generosity. I leaned in close to the camera, and the entire room went silent. How did it feel? Knowing my son was on a ventilator just a few miles away, you didn't just lie. You performed. You used my son's crisis as a prop for your reputation. You didn't protect this family. You protected your image. My father looked up, his eyes wide. First at me, and then turning slowly to look at Rebecca. The shock on his face wasn't just guilt anymore. It was comprehension. He finally saw her. Rebecca's face, for the first time in her life, was pale with rage and fear. She had been exposed. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She was silenced. And in that silence, I finally had all the peace I needed. I reached over and ended the call. The aftermath of that call wasn't loud. It was a deafening, heavy silence. The next morning, my father, Richard, and my stepmother, Brenda, were waiting outside the NICU doors when I arrived. They looked broken. My father, who I had only ever seen in a crisp suit, looked like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes were red. Lauren, he started, his voice thick. We came to meet our grandson. There were no excuses. No justifications. Just a deep, profound shame. I nodded once, and led them to the sink. They scrubbed their arms for 3 full minutes, just like Ethan had. I watched my father, this powerful Boston figure, stand over Leo's incubator. And for the first time, I saw the man, not the image. He was just a grandfather, full of regret. He's beautiful. Lauren, Brenda whispered, tears streaming down her face. He's perfect. It wasn't a fix. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a start. Our relationship will be built on truth from now on. I told them later. Not on image. Or it won't be built at all. My father just nodded, his eyes never leaving Leo. After 10 long, grueling weeks, Leo came home. He was still tiny, barely 5 pounds. But he was a fighter. About a week after we got him settled, our apartment intercom buzzed. It was Aunt Rebecca. She hadn't called. She hadn't texted. She just appeared. Lauren, darling, buzz me in. Her voice crackled through the speaker. I have a little something for Leo's trust fund. From the foundation. I looked at Ryan, who was holding our sleeping son. I walked to the intercom. My hands steady. We don't need a donation. Rebecca. The silence was immediate. Excuse me. Her voice was sharp. I insulted. I am your aunt. I am family. Let me in. I pressed the button one last time. My voice clear and final. No. Rebecca. You are a relation. My family is inside this house. You are not welcome here. I disconnected the call. She buzzed again. And again. And then? She was gone. We held Leo's first birthday party in our small apartment. It was loud. And messy. And full of love. My brother, Ethan, was there, holding Leo up like a trophy. My sidelined Aunt Sharon, now recovered and smiling, was telling him stories. My 3 NICU mom friends, the women who had become my sisters in that sterile, terrifying place, were there with their own miracle babies. And my father and Brenda were there. They weren't holding court like they used to. They were just there, present. Quiet. My father was on the floor, helping Leo unwrap a gift. I looked around at this group, this patchwork of people, and I realized what I had learned. We're all taught that family is an unconditional obligation, that blood is everything. But it's not an obligation. It's a title. It's a title that has to be earned. Through love. And respect. And action. Walking away from a toxic blood relation isn't an act of failure. It's not abandonment. It's a courageous act of self-preservation. It's the moment you finally decide that you and your new little family deserve peace more than you deserve that pain. Have you ever had to redefine what family means to you? Who is your chosen family that showed up when it mattered most? Please share your experiences in the comments below.